And Megan Fox here at PJ Media is explaining.
What's tip 4?
Well, don't trust women. I think you just touched on that with your Dancing with the Stars.
You can still love me.
I do. I love you all the time.
Our First Amendment rights are huge. They are very important to me. They should be important to everyone.
Don't be a public official if you don't want to be filmed, ma'am.
Megan Fox.
Yes. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm Megan Fox, and I write for PJ Media. You can find my columns on pjmedia.com. And also, I've got a couple books out there you should check out on Amazon. Believe Evidence, The Death of Due Process, From Salome to #MeToo, and Shut Up, The Bizarre War That One Public Library Waged Against the First Amendment. And right now, Mike Volpe and I from Chicago, Mike's here. I'm going to bring him into the program. He and I are going through a similar scenario that I wrote about in Shut Up, where these government institutions will go to really far lengths to keep the public from knowing what they are doing. I wrote a 666-page book about this at a library, trying to keep the public out, keep the press out from their business. And now today we are, Mike and I have been trying to get into the to witness open court in America for the last week. We have been diligently trying to get into the courtrooms in St. Louis County in the 21st District Court. I have tried Judge Donnelly's courtroom, Judge Bruce Hilton's courtroom, Judge Zellweger's courtroom. And what are we finding, Mike? What's happening when we try to do that?
Well, I was able to get into Judge Zellweger's courtroom. You hear me, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And but it was kind of by chance. So they've got this WebEx thing. She wouldn't let me in through that, but I found a phone number on the internet. So it wasn't like a secret phone number, and then an access code. And then I got in through my phone, and she did allow me to listen to, I think it was a status conference. And the only notable thing is Judge Beach from your previous reporting on how Judge Zellweger liked to appoint Judge Beach for mediation. He was the trustee. I don't remember the case, but he was the trustee in this case. And so we're going to try to find out exactly how often Judge Zellweger appoints Judge Beach, because it seems like I don't think it's just right. I don't think it's just the 2 times. But be that as it may, right after that, Judge Zellweger announced that her next case was a paternity case, so I had to be knocked out of her courtroom. And it was an interesting paternity case because I think it was Beckman versus Beckman, and those are the exact same last names. So either they coincidentally have the same last name and may or may not have had sex, and that led to a baby, or maybe they're married and the mom was fooling around.
Yeah. Okay. So this issue of, let's talk about this issue of paternity. Okay. This is their excuse for everything. So you can't, this is how they get around the open courts.
That's not how they get around.
Yeah, it is. That's how they get around it, because Missouri Constitution says courts shall be open. Right. They get around it by saying, but in the case, these old laws that have been on the books since like the 1700s about paternity cases and closing them to the public because of the shame and everything that goes with having a baby out of wedlock. They literally have not updated these rules in I don't know, 200 years.
Right. Okay. I would note that Judge James Sullivan was holding in the 22nd district, I think I got that right, over in St. Louis City, was holding a bond hearing for a criminal case with a defendant who was in her 40s, and he closed that as well. So I don't know. You say it's just paternity, but it seems like whatever's the reason or excuse, they come up with a reason not to allow you in. And it is true that Judge Zellweger likes to make as many things as possible paternity as a way to hide her courtroom. But I think whether it's a paternity case or not, they find any reason to go ahead and close the courtrooms. So I think it's and then look, it's not just in St. Louis, Missouri, as you experienced with Judge Lewis, and I think you experienced some of that in Kansas City, Kansas. This is now 3 states that I believe are actually attached to each other, where this is happening. And no, I think this may be the biggest story that we discovered here, is that there is a large segment of judges who have total contempt for the idea that our courtrooms are open.
They
And
sure do. And I want to share something with you guys. So this morning, I did not get let into Judge Zellweger's court at all this week. I've tried at least 3 times on 3 different days to get into her court. And on each day I was, what they do to me is they just leave me on hold. I tried through the phone number on WebEx and I tried on WebEx. They just leave me on hold. So today I got tired of waiting. Her docket, I've got it right in front of me right here. Her docket today, she had Horowitz versus Horowitz. So married, not a paternity case. And that was at 9 a.m. I was on at 9 a.m. They didn't let me in. Williams versus Phillips might be a paternity case. So, okay, fine. That was also at 9. Manley versus Manley, not a paternity case. Henry versus Henry. And then others that are not paternity cases. So there was no reason for her to keep me out of, and how hard is it, by the way, to when you're hearing a non-paternity case to let the observers in and then to put them back in the waiting room until you're done with the paternity and then put them back in. It's not difficult.
Right.
So,
well, in fact, that's what Judge Zellweger claimed was going to happen with me. So after the first case, when I was allowed on, she said, "Oh, the next case is a paternity case." Beckman. I didn't see it at the time, but I believe it was Beckman versus Beckman. But it was 2 last names that are the same. So then I waited and waited and waited, and I waited like 45, 50 minutes. And at that point, I was pretty sure that this paternity case was over, and they had started the next case, and they just weren't letting me on anymore. So yeah, no, look, they're using tricks. They're misusing the law, and this isn't about protecting privacy where the law requires the protection of privacy. This is using the law with an utter contempt for the idea that courtrooms are open. And I'll repeat, and should have looked up her name, but the federal prosecutor in the Mafia Cops case said it was the opening statement specifically was the most fun she's ever had as a lawyer. And part of the reason she said it was so much fun was the gallery was full. It was standing room only. You had the audience. That created the
what is she
drama.
so worried about that she's going to do, or that we're going to do? Look, all we want to do is watch you on the bench, Judge Zellweger. If we've gotten the wrong impression of you, why don't you show me how good of a judge you are? But right now, what you're doing is hiding from me, and I don't appreciate it. I called her clerk this morning after being on hold for 10 minutes on the WebEx. I called the clerk, and I recorded that phone call so you guys can hear how that went. And I would just like to say I'd like to apologize to Judge Zellweger's clerk for getting as frustrated as I got. It wasn't his fault. It's her fault. And, this poor guy's doing his job. And I just get so annoyed. Now, just so you know, this whole thing took 30 minutes to talk to the clerk. I was on hold for 30 minutes.
For a 3-minute
I cut it down. For a 3-minute conversation. Here we go. Okay.
So you can let in with our open hearing.
Are you telling me that every single case on the docket since 9 a.m. is a paternity hearing? Because I've got Horowitz versus Horowitz. Those are 2 married people. That is not a paternity case. Williams versus Phillips might be. Manley versus Manley is not. That's a married couple. Henry versus Henry, married. So how are these close cases that she's hearing at 9 a.m.?
Again, I'm just letting you know that if there's open hearing, you get it.
Can you tell me which one of these cases on the docket are paternity cases? Long pause. I think it's only fair to know so that I know which ones I can and cannot come into. And then he puts me on hold again. I edited it out. Can you tell me that?
Give me just a moment.
So then I go back on hold.
Okay. So I don't have time to look all of these up for you. I do have to go into court right now. But again, with any open hearings, you will be admitted in.
Yeah, I don't believe that, sir. I've already missed several Horowitz versus Horowitz. That is not a paternity case. I have missed, I might be missing Manley versus Manley, which is not a paternity case. And Judge Zellweger needs to know, I am not going to drop this. She's going to let me into her court, or she's going to get sued because she's violating Missouri Constitution. Do you know that? She's violating the Constitution right now by doing this. She did it to another reporter earlier in the week. She cannot do this. I know she doesn't want me in her courtroom, but she doesn't have a choice. So I'm going to take you at your word that they're just going to let me in when they say they can. But I'm going to sit here and I'm taking notes. If she does not let me into her case today, this is a problem. You can't keep the press out of the courtrooms of America. You can't do that. She cannot do it. Do you guys just never get requests for reporters to come into the courtroom? Do you literally just never have this happen to you?
I am not going to speak on that.
Because it seems like you've never had anyone try to watch your courtrooms before ever, because no one knows what to do. No one understands the law. Do you have people, court watchers, come into these courts ever? Or am I the first?
I'm sorry?
Am I the first? Do you never get these requests?
Since I've been here, I've not gotten too many requests. But again, I have to go. I have to do court stuff.
Okay, well, please let Judge Zellweger know I'm not going anywhere. I've been trying to get into her court all week, and I don't believe that every court hearing she's had all week is a paternity case. That's a lie. Okay? So I know what she's doing. Thank you.
I don't think you got that frustrated. I was expecting worse, but
I felt like I kind of gave him the business, and I didn't mean to do that to a clerk. I mean, I know that he's just showing up. He's not a judge. What's he going to do? Is he going to interrupt the judge in the middle of her thing?
He should know how many of the cases are paternity cases. This is part of what judges do. They behave like tyrants, and then they have their clerks act as fronts for them. This happened to me all the time on the Rucky case. There's no way to ever get the judge. So why did the judge do this? Why did the judge do that? And you got clerks that are fronts for them. And the whole point is, well, I'm just the clerk. So, you got to ask, and the judge won't talk to you. The judge won't explain. So pretty convenient the way they've got this all running. You can't talk to the judge, but you can talk to the clerk, who's going to tell you they're going to circle back, to borrow from Jen Psaki, on every question that you have. So, and I deal with it all the time. And you're never going to get I've talked to judges here and there, and the one time it was friendly, he was very careful because he wanted Joe Marcy was in jail for a crime he didn't. It's ridiculous, but the judge had just made a decision, but he didn't. He's like, I can't tell you about the decision, but here's how it works, and he's like, here's how our system works. And by the way, that was a pleasant conversation. I didn't yell at that guy. But judges
this
rarely.
All obstruction. It's just all obstruction, and it's not okay.
Always.
It is not okay to do this. Look, we have been. Mike and I are trying to witness what's going on in St. Louis County courts, because we've had so many other counties too. So now this happened to me in Kansas City. So Kansas City, I received in Kansas City, Kansas, not Missouri. That's an important distinction. In Kansas City, Kansas, there's a group of women came forward to say that they have their own Elaine Pudlowski, guardian ad litem. Her name is Trina Knudsen. And she is tying all these women together up in court, and she plays a million different roles. She's not just a guardian. She's a guardian. She's an attorney. She's also a case manager. She's a
She's also an
supervisor.
evaluator.
She's an evaluator. She's a
Yeah.
custody evaluator. She has a supervision. She owns a psychological therapy service. She
Right.
does it all.
Right. No
so
conflict. No conflict of interest there, I'm sure.
no conflict of interest there.
Right.
So one of these women is involved in an egregious case. Her name is Corey Angiak, and her case is so bad. Her ex-husband is a 2-time convicted child abuser. He stabbed her son in the head with tin snips multiple times. He was convicted of that crime. Convicted. I want to say that again. He was convicted of that crime. 2 different offenses against this child he was convicted of. This judge, his name is Dan Wiley in Kansas City. He knows about this. He knows this case. He pretends like he doesn't know about it, but he does, because I've been told by other people he's heard the orders of protection against this man. So he knows what this man has done. This case was such a big deal. It made Reddit. It made, when he attacked his kid with tin snips, it's not his child, it's a stepchild. But his 2 biological children witnessed that. And he was, and they were emotionally abused by it. And there are DFS reports that say so. They are still forcing him with this Trina Knudsen and this judge, forcing the mom to interact with the man who tried to kill her son and give her other children to him in a 50-50 custody split. It is outrageous. It is against Kansas law. But I would like to share the video. Let's see. I can share. Let's do this. I want you guys to hear how this man talks to this woman in court.
Before you share the video, can I share something?
Uh-huh.
All right. So let's check out this article. Battered mother lost custody to abusive spouse. This is something I wrote 5 years ago. You see that on the screen, right?
Uh-huh.
That Maureen Murphy, she's a notorious judge out of Connecticut. The exact same story. Angela. It's he beat Angela. He was convicted of it, and then the courts demanded, 13 criminal counts, ranging from spousal abuse, spousal sexual assault, kidnapping, threatening, you go on and on and on. All right. They forced her into therapy with him and to share custody. And when she refused to do the therapy, because obviously if you're in the room with your abuser, that's not going to work out very well for you, they took away her custody. So you think that's an anomaly? That's no anomaly. Courts do that all the time. Force you into this kind of arrangement with your abuser and then say you're not participating. And then they eventually take away all custody. Corey's probably like in the middle of what they ultimately want, which is 100% to her ex.
Which is insane. She has not been accused of anything. She does not have any child abuse charges against her. The state of Kansas says that it is a crime. Like you're not a fit parent if you have 2 charges of child abuse substantiated against you, and he's been convicted of both.
Right.
It's incredible to me that they continue to try and put these children with this man. He should never have anything but supervised visits. That's according to Kansas law. So let's listen to how.
By the way, isn't it interesting how sometimes courts follow the letter of the law, and other times they just
do whatever they want.
Or the law. It's amazing.
So this is Judge Dan Wiley. He has a very interesting helmet mullet that I think I should definitely point out here. This man, it needs an appointment with a barber ASAP. But other than that, this man is the most thin-skinned, bullying judge I ever heard. Now, Corey got dragged into court because there's some issue over the school. So to set it up, her ex-husband forced her to sell the family home in the divorce and move out of that area where she was. Well, she couldn't afford to stay in the same area. She had to move out of district. She says she told him she had to do this. Now, because she did move out of district and the kids have to go to a new school, now he's complaining to the judge. He wants them back in the old school after forcing her to move out of the district. The judge, as you can hear, is extremely biased against this mother. And I think one of the reasons is because she's a pro se client. And if you notice, judges usually treat pro se clients very poorly. So let's listen to Judge Wiley.
Before you do that, former federal Judge Posner has done a lot of work on the contempt in the layman sense that judges have for pro se litigants. That's something that he noticed. Richard Posner does a lot. You can find a lot of his work on that. That's coming from a former judge, but that's very common. The contempt for pro se litigants.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's part of the problem here. I think that he only respects people with lawyers, and you can hear it in his voice. Let's listen to him.
There's an issue that bothers me, I guess. The parties have joint legal custody, correct, Ms. Andrzejczyk?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and Mr. Duma, that's correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so before any decision can be made bearing on education, school choice, or anything else, the parties are required to confer and come to a joint decision. Neither party has the unilateral authority to remove these children from any particular school. Mr. Duma, was your client consulted on this change?
No, sir.
Ms. Andrzejczyk, did you consult with the father on this change?
So when they were forcing me to sell the house, I told them that if I had to move, I was going to move out of district. I still have the safety concern. He is still a protected party in this case. So I did inform them that they were...
Oh, no. I didn't say inform. I said they have an equal choice to make here. You don't get the right to unilaterally make that choice. So I didn't ask if you informed them. I asked if you conferred. And
So
did they have input?
So I asked Aaron if he would prefer to go to school remotely, full time. He said yes. I contacted the school. I asked them. They said it's not in best interest for her to continue to go to the school. They wanted her to adapt to the school here. I sent them that email. The social worker and the counselor there, he's been having significant problems that they've been working with. Where was I supposed to go? I don't have the money to stay in Baser. It's very expensive to live there. I don't know what, he's put me in a catch-22, and he knows it. I can't move from the district, but I also can't afford to live there.
And Judge, when she did tell us about this after the fact, I said, Miss Andrzejczyk, you could have told us about this beforehand. We could have gotten an apartment within the district. We could have done things to keep our kids in school. This is a continuing problem of her making these decisions, telling us after the fact, and us having to deal with the ramifications.
All right, Mr. Duma, is there a request to return the kids to the Baser School District?
That would be my request.
Okay, stop. I had thought about this after I heard this a bunch of times. The judge is giving the other attorney what to do here. Do you hear that? Him saying, do you have a request to keep the children and to return the children to this other school without without the attorney asking him first? That is so unethical. He can't do that.
Correct. More than one defense attorney, though the first guy who told me about it was Fletcher Long, who's no longer a defense attorney, but he was a really good one. And he and other defense attorneys often say the biggest problem with criminal courts is that judges, many of whom are former prosecutors, don't act as a judge, but as effectively a second prosecutor.
Yes,
and it's
that's what he's doing.
Same thing here. Of course, he's
leading
telegraphing
him. He's leading him into the decision he wants to make.
Think about it. They're saying they on the one hand forced her to move, and then told her we want to be consulted on what school you should move to. You're forcing her to move, and then
they want her to move to the same place where they want to control where she lives. How dare? This is the man she had to watch attack her son and stab him in the head. There was blood all over the floor and the walls.
Was this Judge Wiley is the one who gave him joint legal custody? Is that it?
I don't know. I would imagine. Who did that? Yeah.
Who decided that a man who beats his ex should have joint legal custody? That's of course part of the issue. And see, look, this is all one of many. Do you see how much the courts get involved? You're moving here, you're going to this school, you're going to that school. The court wants to know everybody's decision. They want to hyper analyze everybody's decision. This is, as Fletcher Long said, this is black robitis. This is a guy who is drunk on power because you put on the robe and it goes to your head. And he is not an anomaly. This happens everywhere. Were you done with that? Because I've got some
No,
of
no,
this.
we'll keep going because it
Okay.
gets worse. It gets
Okay.
worse here. But I just wanted to point it out that the judge is leading this attorney into what he wants to rule, and I don't think that that's allowed.
Right. No,
Definitely
he's
journalize that. And, yeah.
I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Aaron, if he has to, in order to keep custody of the kids, live with his parents, he's in Piper. I now live in Leavenworth.
Well, Ms. Anderson, I'll answer how that happens. The district, without any doubt, would have let the kids finish the school year, even if the parents move out. So
False.
I
She has the email. He will not look at it. The email from the school, which I have read and published, says, no, they cannot finish out the time here. They need to go to their new school. That's what it says.
right.
the counselor and the guy. I have the emails from the principal, the
There it
guidance
is.
counselor, and the social worker at the school. They said they believed it was in the children's best interest for them to start the school year here so that they could be adapted to their situation. I have the email.
Can you pause
I
it?
forwarded it
Yeah,
to Aaron.
hold on.
That didn't address what I said, and that was the
I hate how he keeps interrupting her too. He does not let her finish a sentence.
Right. Well, that's because clear bias. Do you see how parents get caught between multiple bureaucracies?
Mhm.
The judge is demanding one thing, the school is saying no, and it's impossible to be a parent. And that's not as much on the school in this case as it is on the court and on a judge who is just insistent on trying to micromanage every single little decision that every parent, not every parent, because I bet the decisions that the dad's making, he's not micromanaging to the same extent. And I would love to know if it was Judge Wiley or another judge who thought a man who's convicted of hitting his wife deserves joint legal custody.
No, he was convicted of hitting the child, of
hitting the child. I'm sorry, hitting the
stabbing
child.
the child,
But he
stabbing the child in the head, by the way, stabbing.
Right, he should be having joint legal custody, which means medical, school, and other important decisions he has to agree to.
It's insane. It's insane. All right. And
Right.
so, and I think everyone can hear the contempt in this judge's voice, and it only gets worse.
the school would have allowed them to finish the semester at Baser,
They
even
allowed
if the parents had moved out.
them to finish the quarter.
And Judge, the marital residence is still there. It's still in Baser. My client has possession of it, and so we can use that as the basis for them to go there.
Well, the court's going to order that the kids be returned to the Baser School District to finish the semester at the Baser School District. I'm not making any other orders today with regard to the report. We probably need to set this. Where are we at as far as the work is? We're set Thursday, right, Mr. Doom and Ms. Andrzejczyk?
Yes.
Yeah. How will the kids be getting back and forth to Baser? I mean, it's 30 minutes away from both of us.
I got you. So what time are we set on Thursday?
He just changed the conversation. I gotcha. But then
He
he
never,
changes the
hold on one
conversation.
second. This is correct that both parents are about a half hour
Yep.
away from the school.
Yeah.
You see, neither parent makes the decision. The judge makes the decision and then says, you figure it out. Black robe-itis, Judge Dan Wiley. And it is so typical, particularly in family courts, where these judges just make decrees and then say, you figure it out. I don't care, whatever. You're sending them to this school and you figure out how to get them there. Was that it? For the
Yeah,
audio?
except I'd like to update that what happened after that recording became public. My invitation to sit in on Corey's hearing, which is today, got rescinded. He canceled the online hearing that was scheduled for today for an open divorce hearing and called it in person, just like Judge James Sullivan in St. Louis City did to Angela Freener when press was interested in that case. In order to keep us out and keep out the public, they opened up a closed courtroom in the middle of a pandemic to hear that case. Same thing in this case. The Judge Wiley, has now opened up a closed courtroom in Kansas City and is having this hearing in person. I am a little concerned, Mike, that he intends to take Corey into custody for contempt.
I think if a judge is trying to do anything like that with this much media attention, he's asking for trouble.
He won't be doing it in the dark.
Right. Well, let's remember Judge Zellweger had Angie Freiner arrested at a time when her case was creating all kinds of media attention. And now I'm not sure what St. Louis City and St. Louis County is going to do with that particular prosecution, but they created a whole separate mess. And by the way, we only know about Judge James Sullivan and his utter contempt for open courtrooms because of this criminal matter that Angie got involved in. Now, does that come up?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see my article. I wanted to give an update on this article about David Segui, the former baseball player.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Yeah, that
so
one's a good one.
okay, so I'm going to play this as a 16-second recording. This man right there in the background, his name is Mark Grudzelanek. He is a former baseball player. The two children are the biological children of David Segui, his former teammate. And it's a pretty self-explanatory video.
You just sprayed what in his eyes? Vinegar? No, vinegar in his eyes? Vinegar in his eyes. And then you do it back to him? Yeah, do that fucking again. How about you do it in front of my dad? How you do that?
He's spraying it in my eyes. He wants to play, we'll play. What are you gonna, what's that?
And you just sprayed what in his eyes?
A grown man,
right, he wants to
with a child.
He wants
he wants to play. I'll do it back to him. What kind of a man does that to a child? I don't care what the child is doing. What the hell?
Vinegar into his eyes. So we've got an update on this. This is how far we're getting, you and I, Megan. The update is coming from TMZ. Does it come up?
I don't know this yet. I'm so excited. This is breaking news. Hold on.
What do you read?
Oh, Grudzelanek
So
under
the
police investigation. Nice.
Now, they didn't really get into a lot of details. My understanding is, I believe that's what's called a tease, which means TMZ is working on some big stuff on Grudzelanek and this incident. And I think they had confirmed enough for a story because it's a pretty short story. Have they given
Segui his kids back yet?
No, they have not.
They're still in that house with him?
Keep in mind, this guy who is either the mother's fiance or husband. I've gotten both, so I don't want to. Because ultimately, doesn't really matter that much. He's under police investigation. There's multiple reports since they've changed custody with the mom, now with the pseudo dad. And not only does David Segui not have custody, he still hasn't seen his children. And this whole thing is supposed to be like a 90-day thing. I don't want to get too detailed, but David Segui is supposedly a parent alienator. It can't be the incident you watched. Can't be that, right? But he was supposed to be kept away for 90 days. It can't be the
fact that the stepdad is spraying vinegar in the kid's eyes and acting like a total child.
Right.
That can't be it. It's got to be David Segui's fault somehow.
Right, and they're keeping up with that. But now you have this guy under police investigation. This is in Arizona, near Scottsdale or in Scottsdale, it's just a lot more.
Hey, didn't the judge recuse himself after you wrote that article?
I was told that, but I don't want to say for sure, but I do believe that the judge recused himself, but it was coming through like multiple intermediaries and the case, it's either sealed or there's gags. So there's a lot of.
How dare they put gag orders on these cases? Right. It makes me so mad.
They put gag orders on cases all the time. So let me, wanted to get up one other thing. And so I wanted to, I'm starting an investigation. And has this come up?
Yeah. Hold on.
All right. So this is an organization called the Children's Law Center of North Carolina. All right. So you remember I Care a Lot. This group, now there's a bunch of children's law centers, and I think they're only loosely connected to each other. But all of them offer guardian ad litem services. Now you remember the end where they had a scam where they create a company of guardians. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Children's Law Center, at least I think it's Central North Carolina is. So here's what I wanted to do. If you know anything about this group, or you had a guardian ad litem in your case, or you know someone with a guardian ad litem, contact me, because I'm looking at that group. And they run as a nonprofit, and they seem to get
scroll the screen up so that people can see the logo at the top.
Right, Children's Law Center
Children's Law Center. So Mike's looking for anybody who's had any kind of interaction with this group, Children's Law Center in North Carolina, come forward and talk about it. Also, I should say I am still looking for people with experience with the Lane Project in Kansas City with Trina Knudsen, because they are now under investigation.
So let's get an update on that.
Yeah. Yes, let's get the update that you have, Mike.
Right.
Now, I would like to tell you that I reached out to Trina Knudsen, of course, before I published the article. I always reach out to the targets of the article to allow them to have their say and to defend themselves if they want to tell their side of the story. And so I ask for comment.
You're just not as charming as I am.
I'm not as charming as you because she did not respond to me. But Michael here is a legend, and he got her to respond.
I sent her and Elaine Podlowski an email because I thought they should be on the same one. So I said, do you two know each other? You just seem to have similar styles. And then it was a link to your most recent article. And then Trina asked me, well, I didn't identify myself. So that was fair. So, in response
Trina wanted to know who you were.
Right. In response to that, I'm an investigative journalist. I've been following Ms. Podlowski in St. Louis. She's a powerful guardian ad litem, seems to handle her cases in much the same way you do. Now, how often do you find parental alienation in your cases? Is it a big problem, would you say? And so Trina gives the response that these guardian ad litem types always give. Parent contact problems are not created in a vacuum, and solutions are not going to be either. There is an ongoing issue with parents not accepting accountability for their part in parental conflict. Now,
I would like to know what Corey's part was in the abuse that her son suffered.
Right.
What's Corey's part in that? Because
this is exactly how they think. Okay, because this is what happened in that Connecticut case.
It takes two to tango. She says this to people all the time.
No. See, what it is Corey's not cooperative. Okay, they're trying to incorporate the dad into the child's life, and she's not going along. Just like Angela Hickman, that's her married name, wouldn't go along with her ex, who I believe threw her down the stairs once while she was pregnant. Not engaging with him. They did the same thing in the Rucky case. They do it all the time. The parent who's abused is not cooperating. They're not engaging. They're not co-parenting. And you mentioned
like you're supposed to co-parent with a guy who stabbed your son in the head. How do you co-parent with a monster like that? I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
And if you don't, then you become the problem. And that is very important.
Like Corey told me, Mike, you have to hear this too, because the oldest son, who's the victim of the crime, is not Adam or Aaron Angie's son. He is someone else's son. He's the stepson. He has two biological children with Corey. Because they forced this man to have visitation, they forced Corey to let her smaller children have visitation with him. He's had to be on Zoom calls in their house. So that means that her older son has to hear his abuser's voice in the house. And because of it, her son had a suicide attempt. They are abusing this boy who has already been abused by this man by forcing them to have interaction. And in that order that stupid lawyer wrote with the motion for contempt, or sorry, not the motion for contempt. It was the one that the stupid custody evaluator wrote. The recommendation said that it's on Corey to keep the victim away from the abuser. It's Corey's responsibility to keep him away from the abuser. The abuser has no responsibility whatsoever to stay away from the boy he stabbed in the head. Who are these people? And why do they have power over children?
Right, because the judge gives them power.
That was Terry Harris, by the way. In fact, I need to put Terry Harris's picture up on the screen because everybody here needs to know who Terry Harris is. Terry Harris is a woman who practices law in Kansas, and she believes that it's the victim's responsibility to stay away from the abuser. So here's Terry. Let's show the world who Terry Harris is, because she has written a horrific recommendation. There she is, right there. She kind of looks like the witch in Hansel and Gretel, doesn't she? I mean, I wouldn't want to show up at her house and lost in the woods.
She's a looker.
She's a little girl.
It's not for everyone, but you know.
This woman has recommended that the abused child and the abused mom are the ones responsible for keeping away from the abuser. Who is this person and why does she think these things? That's what I want to know. And I tried to get in contact with her and she won't respond to me. Hey, Mike, maybe she'll respond to your charm.
I'll try. Now, Corey is being accused of parental alienation as well. Am I correct? Or no?
I'm not quite clear. I think so. Yeah, I think that's what they're going after.
They may not be doing the exact same thing. Sometimes they use the co-parent thing. They're basically they'll sometimes you don't want to use parental alienation. Maybe they don't even know the term, but they're all saying the same things. They're basically the same kind of cases. So last week we did something on parental alienation, which folks can find, and I sent that video around. And one of the people I talked about was a guy named Paul Reitman. And so this guy was involved in the Rucky case, which is the most notorious, in my opinion, parental alienation, probably the most notorious custody case, maybe in America, but certainly regarding parental alienation. So this guy was appointed by the judge. Judge's name is David Knutson. He's as tyrannical as Judge Wiley. And Sam, that's the mom, was ordered under the threat of being put in jail to meet with Paul Reitman. Paul Reitman meets with her and 4 or 5 children for less than a half hour. Yes, each of the children one question, and then recommends that the children immediately be removed from the mother's care and placed into therapeutic foster care. I kid you not. I kid you not. That's what he did. So I sent him because he was on an important.
Is this the same guy that you got the records from? The therapeutic records?
No, that was
somebody else.
Jim Gilbertson, who was recommended onto the case by Paul Reitman. Paul Reitman told me that he was on the case for about 2-3 weeks. He told me he made $100,000. He told me that
for 2 to 3 weeks.
Look, when people tell you how much money they make, they usually like 2 to 3 times what they actually made. Nobody who makes a lot of money is going around going, "Here's what I made." So that's what I always wondered. But he did tell me that he made $100,000 on this case. So I sent him the video of that particular of the last live stream we did because we mentioned him. I thought he would enjoy it, and he responded. These are some great responses. So let me get these up. So I sent him a link to the video, and his response is, "It's easy to know the right thing to do, but it's hard to do the right thing, moron."
Moron.
I'm hurt. He called me a moron, but I did suggest that Judge Zellweger should have devil horns. So hold on, you're breaking up.
You need to share the screen with the emojis. You need to share the screen with the emoji response that he sent you.
Okay, let me see. So then this is my response back. It's actually not that hard to know that you probably can't get any diagnosis, let alone parental alienation, which was his diagnosis, in one 25-minute meeting. You did that in the Rucky case. Am I right? Didn't you claim that this was a severe case of parental alienation after one 25-minute session?
Terrible.
Didn't you do that? You have bobbed and weaved around your role in this. It's simple. David Rucky is an abusive monster, and he used your bogus diagnosis to get unfettered access to his kids. And in response to that, let me get this up. In response to that, he did send me some emojis, and I'm not sure.
This is a professional mental health evaluator.
This is a man in his 70s, if I understand correctly. It's not just
I'm kind of impressed that he knows how to find emojis, though. I am, and it's not easy.
Do we see that? I don't know what that is. So I'm not sure if he's insulting me.
No, it's devil horns. It's an injured head and a pile of shit.
Right. I'm pretty sure.
Is that a threat? Is he threatening to hurt you?
Wait, by the way, speaking of that, the first time I reached out to him, he immediately said he was calling the cops. But this is man in his 70s sending me emojis. But look, I do want to say that the first response was interesting. It was almost, not quite, but almost an admission that he didn't that he botched the case, that the entire Rucky case was botched, which would be an interesting admission, because if you talk to anyone in the like court system or in the media or in the police, they'll all tell you Sandra Grazzini Rucky's horrible and everything that happened is exclusively her fault. And the court system did the right thing, the police did the right thing, and the media covered it right. So he seems to suggest it because he's saying, I always point out bad things, but it's not easy to know what's the right thing to do. I think what he's saying is you may, basically hindsight is 20/20, but it seems like almost that Dr. Paul Reitman has admitted that that he may not have always done the right thing in that particular case. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Okay, so I believe that while we're talking about these therapists, I want to show people, this is Trina Knudsen. She is a therapist and a lawyer and all sorts of other things, guardian ad litem in Kansas City. She has a company called the Lane Project. This is a therapy center where they also do supervised visitation. And just so you know, we've been talking a lot, Mike, about how much power these people have over your lives. They have this power over your children, and they love the power. And this is a perfect example of showing someone who has no self-awareness. She made this 29-minute video of herself giving out her rules of appropriate behavior when you come into her facility. I've actually never seen anything like this anywhere, Mike. Have you ever seen a company who wants to bring people into their service? Have you ever seen someone make a 30-minute video about how you must behave when you're there? Wait till you hear. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
Not 30 minutes. 30 minutes seems a little bit long, but also I'd point out that most of the people who come into her facility, I'm guessing, aren't there by choice, but they're there through some sort of a court order. So she can tell them whatever she wants. They have no choice but to be there.
Yeah, so let's listen to a little bit of this and imagine having this woman who reminds me of Dolores Umbridge taking control of your life.
Project, therapist, or supervisor. There shall be no discussion about the court case within your session unless otherwise directed by your therapist or supervisor. This includes no future promises to your children. Passing notes is not allowed while receiving Lane Project services. This includes mail as well as other belongings. Relaying information through the children is impermissible. This includes asking your child to tell their other parent something on your behalf. This only puts your children in the middle. The Lane Project will not act as a go-between for two parents. However, we will relay information which involves the day's services. For example, if the child has not been feeling well.
And I think I missed the part where she says there's no whispering, and that's my favorite part.
Staff suspects drug or alcohol abuse prior or during a session.
This is where she says you're not allowed to walk to your car.
Right to end the session and suspend or cancel future services. Loitering, harassment, fighting, or confrontation with the Lane Project staff, your co-parent, or your children will not be tolerated. It is grounds for potential suspension of services here at the Lane Project. Negative comments, or derogatory statements, name calling about your co-parent, your children's other family, or the Lane Project staff will not.
All right. First of all, that's one of the creepiest things I've ever watched. That's like some movie would come up with a person like this and have them do a video like this. But it reminded me of an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, and a lot of things remind me of an episode. So basically, Deborah and Ray are arguing again, and their friends Bernie and Linda went to a therapist.
Yes.
So Deborah gets it in her head. We got to go to a therapist. So what does Ray do? He plays the loving husband who wants to, and so she's basically like, that's not therapy because you played a character, and that's what she's doing here. Here's all of the things you can't talk about. So here you're just going to pretend like everything is great So that's what's going to happen at the Lane Project. We're not going to talk about the court case. We're not going to talk about anything negative. We're not going to talk about anything. It's basically Ray playing a character. And obviously, Deborah is upset because you're not a loving husband. So stop pretending like you are one. And this is the same thing. We're all going to pretend that we're a loving family. So for the
Yeah, how can
therapist,
you get therapy about your situation if, one, you're not allowed to talk about your situation and you aren't allowed to say anything negative about it? So what?
Right.
And there's even a part in here where she says there's no whispering allowed.
No whispering, no
There's
going to your car.
whispering. There's
Right.
no
No,
whispering. Like,
it's
I literally have to play more of this because I can't get enough of this woman. I know
okay.
it's like
And then
nails on a
after this,
chalkboard.
I wanted to end with something about big tech.
Okay.
Not be tolerated.
Will
and
not
as
be
grounds
tolerated.
For termination or potential suspension of future services here at the Lane Project. No swearing is allowed.
No swearing.
There shall be no discussion about the court case during sessions unless otherwise directed by the Lane Project therapist or supervisor. There shall be no discussion about the court case.
All right, we heard
within
this
your
part already.
session.
I missed the whispering. It's in there somewhere, but I'll just trust me that she says
Right,
no whispering.
That was on YouTube, am I right?
It's on YouTube. Yes.
Right. So here, what I'm about to say, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't criticize big tech. And big tech did ban President Trump, which is probably a much bigger deal than anything I'm saying now. But big tech has helped us. And every time I feel like in all of these stories,
it's true.
Specifically YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, the three faces of big tech. And I think you use Apple to varying degrees as well. So number one, between you and I think we've had 4 or 5 privacy complaints to videos we have put up on big tech.
We have.
Often from either judges or their agents. So
that's correct.
So YouTube receives this, and I'm sure they know that it's a judge, and they have not removed any of them.
They have not, and I would like to thank YouTube for that, and also all these other big tech companies. That's good that they're following their terms of service, which means, in these cases. Although I will still say, though, Mike, my channel is still completely demonetized. Very few of my videos can take commercials, and they claim that it's because the content is not advertiser friendly. What I do here is no different than what people do on 60 Minutes. I don't know why it's not advertiser friendly. I will occasionally drop an F-bomb, but very, very rarely. And that's nothing that Comedy Central doesn't do. So why can't I have a commercial? So that bothers me. But I agree with you that they have not been taking it down. So that's a good thing.
There. But also look, I put that Zoom conference was one of the videos that were challenged. But look, that you think it would have gotten 11,000 views and counting on Rumble, on BitChute, anywhere else. The power of YouTube, you feel it. It moves, it spreads. They know how to market their videos. It feels like a partner. Facebook and Twitter, first and foremost, they've spread. Obviously, social media spreads everything you do. But I think you found a Facebook group for one of the judges you were investigating. You know how convenient that is.
It is really great. Actually, there's several of these groups, and in fact,
they're all on Facebook.
They're all on Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg is allowing them to be there for now. Let's hope that.
No, not only allowing them. Look, people. There's a lot of criticism of that guy, and a lot of it is envy, in my opinion. He's 37, I think. Think about that.
Well, look, listen, Mike. He deserves a lot of criticism because, for one, PJ Media, by the way, was getting incredible traffic on Facebook until they changed their algorithms all of a sudden to put news in a lower category, and all of a sudden we are struggling for any kind of views. Now, and unfortunately, Facebook is the place where that's where we get all of our views from, because that's where people get their news. They are doing that purposefully.
I know they're doing. They might be.
They might be putting us out of business. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end. But our traffic is so. I mean, it's terrible after what they did to us, and they keep on flagging us for false reports, which is totally false, and saying that we have flags.
They certainly have drawn an immense amount of power. But look, that Facebook is like the central depository for most news. That didn't just happen. That is his genius, but I do think he deserves a lot
But he
of
has the
criticism.
responsibility. He has a lot
I
of
understand,
responsibility with that, and he's not treating it.
he
He's
takes
not
it.
treating it seriously.
Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But look, he's not infallible. But I do think a lot of the criticism of that guy is pure envy. That you think he doesn't deserve where he's at.
I don't think that. I think that
no,
what he's
not
created,
you personally,
I
but a
think
lot
what
of
he's
people.
created is great, and I would like us all to be able to use
Right.
it equally. And I don't think that that's
Right.
happening right
That's why
now.
I said he still deserves criticism, but we were able to interact. Stan, one of the men you mentioned on the father's broadcast.
Yeah.
It was like somebody did one of my articles. They mentioned me. Then I talked to them, and then through Facebook, that person said, "Hey, you should talk to Stan." All through Facebook. That's how you meet
It
people
has
a
been
lot
a
of
great
times.
connection service
And
for this kind of
same
thing.
thing with Twitter.
Yeah.
Same thing with Twitter. So on this particular issue, I don't like big tech that much.
But they have helped us on this issue. It's true.
It feels like it's a partnership. They take the articles, they spread them around, and you're able to meet people. And so look, I guess what I'd say is they're not a caricature. There's plenty of criticism there. I won't go through everything. There's a woman out of Russia. Her name is Gamazda. She calls herself Gamazda. I think she has an actual name. She's a pianist who does, like, the last one is Painted Black by Rolling Stones. Hundreds of thousands, millions of views every time she does a video, mostly because she's brilliant. But YouTube is what's helping her become a global superstar. The same website that I put that Zoom conference on puts her videos on. And there's a blues musician named Robert Johnson who died in 1938, who some people thought was so great that he made a deal with the devil to play the blues. You go find his videos. They are 30 million views. A man who has been dead for almost 100 years lives on forever on Facebook, on YouTube. And that's the awesome power that big tech has. And I don't know if my view has changed, but they're not a caricature. When you see their power and it benefits you, it does change my perspective, at least.
Yeah.
It's not all of this stuff is not as simple as you think.
I put up your contact information on the screen and also mine as well, because we are still looking. We're looking for victims of this horrific situation. St. Louis County.
But also, if you have been victimized or you know anything about Children's Law Center of Central North Carolina,
and also the Lane Project in Kansas City. We're looking at all of Missouri, actually. So any county in Missouri, send it to me. I'm also about to look into Tarrant County, Texas. I have gotten so many complaints from Tarrant County, Texas. Watch out, Tarrant County. You're on my radar. You're coming up soon.
I actually have an article on my blog about that. A lot of really bad cases. I just downloaded a video onto YouTube today. You can find a hearing with Judge Judith Wells in one of her notorious cases, Sarah Leva, who had her kids taken away from her, even though she didn't even live in Texas, in Tarrant County. And somehow this judge, Judith Wells, who's one of many notorious judges over there, that's one of many notorious places that.
Yeah, so we're going to be. I'm going to be turning my focus onto Tarrant County, Texas, pretty soon, and so I just want you to know that it may take us a while to get through the requests, but we are looking at them. We are creating files on every state in this nation. Once I get here's what I want to tell the victims out there to do, because this is the easiest and fastest way to get your story covered. It is very difficult to cover one story. What I need you to do is get together with other victims in your county, because if you exist, other victims exist too. So you need to do some of the footwork here too, because Mike and I can't do this all by ourselves. You need to do the footwork in your county. You need to hook up with other victims. Do it through these Facebook groups. Create your own Facebook group. Get out there and find other victims. Sit in the, if you have to, start sending out flyers. I don't care. Find other victims. You find 5 victims and bring that to me. We'll go straight to press with it. Definitely.
Right. Look, that was the point of creating Facebook groups. That's what Facebook wanted. Look, I'm part of Facebook groups for Pink Floyd and Michael Jordan. Why? Because I'm a fan of both, and so in a different way that connects me to other people of same interest. But that was the point of Facebook groups. That was what I meant. I think we've caricatured them, big tech that is, So you forget the positive power that it has. And
No, I agree with you.
Right.
I agree with you. It doesn't do anybody any good to demonize it when it does.
Right. I think when a man who has been dead for nearly 100 years not only exists but thrives, so there's something pretty powerful about the website that creates that.
There's a
Albert Johnson
comment.
did nothing except make a few really, really great songs to now exist on YouTube as this mega power. 30 million, 20 million people have listened to his songs. It's pretty amazing for someone who's not been alive for a long time.
There's a question about someone says they've done the footwork in Massachusetts and they have hundreds. Here's what I want to tell you. Yes, email me. Do not email me any attachments. Email me an email that says I have victims in Massachusetts, and I will respond to you with the intake form that I need everybody to fill out. Please understand, you cannot fill up my inbox with thousands of attachments. I don't have the memory for it. So wait for me to ask you for the attachments that I need, and we will do that. But when people send me, they spam me with their attachments and their court documents, and there's 1,000 records, I literally have to throw it in the trash because my memory can't take it. So please don't do that. Just send me an email with your name, say I have all these victims, and I will send you the information that you need to get it out to them, and we'll get started on it, okay? So that's how you do that. And you can also email Michael. I don't know what his stance is on attachments, but mine is please no attachments.
Right. Don't go crazy. I don't mind attachments, but yeah, no, I
don't go crazy.
Right. No, look, people send me 500 pages.
Yeah, I know. We can't read that.
Right.
We can't read that. Please also understand when you're trying to get someone's attention, when you're trying to get media attention, do not send walls of text. Send one paragraph with the bullet, or send bullet points. Here are the worst things that happened to me. Bam, bam, bam. That's it. I have one person, when I found Cindy Absug's case in Colorado, people email me all the time with these walls of text. Cindy sent me an email with one sentence. It said, they kidnapped my son.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
And I responded to her immediately because there was something about that it was, she had the wherewithal to know this is the most important thing and you need to know it, and I need to grab your attention, and that worked for me. So you guys have to understand, we get hundreds of emails. I need you to break it down very quickly, and so I can get right to it.
I've gotten requests for stories all the time, obviously, but ever since the St. Louis story broke, the requests are dramatically higher. So since February, look,
we don't have assistants, we don't have producers,
look,
we don't.
As I tell you always bluntly, you are competing for my attention. There's nothing and don't tell me my story is horrible. They're all horrible.
They're all horrible.
Right. I'm not hearing jaywalking stories. So that's not it. There's a limited amount of things that I can do, and I'm trying to do as many as possible. And look, I keep getting new ones. That's the other thing. But
we're not ignoring you. It's just that we physically cannot get through all of it.
No, unfortunately, there aren't nearly enough journalists working in these places. But we should.
Mike and I don't work for CNN. We don't have a staff. We don't have.
But there are a few other ones. If you're tired of waiting for me, try Mike Hixenbaugh.
Right.
Hixenbaugh at NBC.
Yeah.
He's done
also,
a few.
Try USA Today, especially if you're in Florida. The USA Today has done multiple series about foster care in Florida, and they are open to doing family court stories. I can tell just because they've spent hours and hours and hours. You look up the USA Today stories on DFS in Florida, and you'll find some reporters who are serious about getting to the bottom of corruption. So you can try them too.
And Reuters last year did a very big piece on how much judicial malfeasance there is and how rarely it is held accountable, and find the reporters there, and you can try them as well. There are Patrick Howley over at National File. He just broke a pretty big one out of Florida. A judge berated a woman. He got the audio recording. That's a pretty big deal. He's done them from time to time as well. So there are other reporters, but yeah, look, basically everyone who's been waiting for their story to come out is now asking the two of us, because we have published stories that are similar stories all over the country, not just the country, As you heard from Samantha Baldwin, all over the world, that's a British woman who has a story that's very similar to the Freiner case and other cases, accused of parental alienation when she is trying to protect her children from abuse, sexual abuse in that case. Very similar. It's a global problem, and people from basically all around the globe are contacting both of us. And so we're trying, and we are, look, we're both publishing stories all the time. But
I want to address Dawn's comment here. She says it's so terrifying to speak up against corrupt family court professionals because they have so much power. You are correct, Dawn. They do have a lot of power. But here's the thing. If you can speak out and you can get people like Mike or like me, to help you tell your story, you have a lot more power than you think. And in groups, especially when you find other victims to stand up with you, you will have a chance. Here's the thing you have to ask yourself. If I say nothing, are they going to be nice to me?
Right. I doubt it.
They're not. You're not. But if you go down fighting. That's my philosophy.
Right. You are always taking a leap of faith when you go to the media and you go public, but more times than not, it does work. It does help. Secondly, I would just want to ask a couple of rhetorical questions. You think that Elaine Podlowski feels pretty powerful right now? Or do you think she feels kind of vulnerable? How about Trina Knutson? Do you think she feels powerful? How about Judge Wiley? I don't think
he feels very powerful right now.
Yeah, I think that it's a way to challenge their power, and they do have a lot of power over you. The one, there's nothing we can say or do.
There's nothing we can say or do to ensure that you will not be retaliated against as someone in a crazy judge's court. Nothing we can do to stop that from happening. But what we can do is tell you that if that happens because of the press coverage we've given you, we are there to make sure it is not done in secret. We are there to tell people what's being done to you. Now, I know that it's a risk. It's hard to ask someone to be willing to go to jail. Okay. But I am putting my neck out there every day by posting these recordings that I'm not supposed to be recording. Okay. And I'm willing to go to jail over it because I think it's a worthy cause. I would love to see a judge try and put me in jail for recording him doing something terrible to one of you. I don't think the public opinion is going to be so happy with that judge. Do you?
No, but also you're only risking jail when you are violating a gag order, or you're violating some sort of court order, which would put you into contempt or something similar.
Well, or risking jail if you send an email to a judge saying you don't like what she did, because Angela got thrown in jail for that.
Right,
look,
correct.
They can throw you in jail for anything, Mike. We know this.
Correct. You make yourself a target. You certainly do make yourself a target, but I have found that more often than not it helps, but it doesn't help every single time. That's true.
Are you tearing up the State of the Union speech? What are you doing? You're tearing something to pieces. I keep hearing ripping.
Right, just in the back. All right. So, okay. Do we have anything else?
I wanted to remind everybody, as we were saying, we do not have CNN's budget. We do not have a large budget. So all of the investigative work that we're doing, a lot of the FOIAs I'm sending in cost hundreds of dollars. And I don't have that kind of budget. And certainly I could use your help. So if the American people would like to fund this investigation, I have an account on GoFundMe. It's called the Missouri Family Court Corruption Investigation. I've put the link in the chat, and the link is also running across the bottom of the screen. But if you go into GoFundMe and just search my name, you'll find it. And I would really appreciate any amount, $1, $2. I have a Subscribestar account as well. If you want to if you do Subscribestar, and of course on YouTube, you can do super chats. But all of that helps our investigation go forward, because we have had to pay quite a bit. We've had to pay for databases to find more information on these people. The database is $275 a month. We've been able to pay for that so far with the donations that we've been given, thank God. And if anybody out there can help us with this, and I mean it, $1. I don't care if you give me $1 a month. I would be very happy. We've got 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. If all of you would just give $1 today, we would have so much more to go forward with. We're planning, there are trips coming up to St. Louis. There are things that are happening. And so all of that needs to be funded. So please do visit the GoFundMe and donate to the investigation fund.
Okay. And I have a similar one on Go Get Funding, but if you find any of my St. Louis County articles at the bottom, there's a link. And same thing, because these are very long-term stories. And basically, I did it as to see if it could be crowdfunded, and it worked to some degree. But the crowdfunding, if you're going to continue to do something long-term, the money has to continue to come in, or at some point.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've been able to raise $4,700 so far for the Missouri investigation, and I should probably change the description because I'm going to widen it because we're going to need it for other places. But I'm very pleased that we've raised $4,700 already. I feel like that means people care about this. And unfortunately, I'm an independent journalist, so is Mike. We sell our work to publications. We're not employees. So we don't have a big company behind us paying for these things. We have to do it on our own. We're freelancers. And so that's something that I've never tried before. I've always paid for it myself. And I've never tried crowdfunding. And I feel like this is a great way to allow people who feel like they want to help, but they don't have anything to give. This is a way that you can help. I'm not asking for a ton. I know it's hard, and you guys are probably paying your own legal bills and everything. But even if you can donate $5, $10, it all adds up, and it's been working really well. So I think it's a great way to keep this going.
Okay, and I think on that note, we're done.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. And Mike and I will be back, I'm sure, next week. We're going to try and do. Oh, I forgot, Mike. I'm going to bring you back in here. I forgot. Tomorrow, big debate tomorrow.
Right.
At 12 o'clock noon, we are going to have a live debate with Michael Volpe with Michael Volpe and Kenneth Rosa from the Fathers' Rights Movement. We are going to debate 50-50 bills that are going through 50-50 shared parenting bills, and we're going to debate parental alienation. And it's going to be intense. But I do want to say, going into that, my reason for doing it, I feel like I can kind of be an objective party because I see both sides, and I want to somehow bring you guys together and see if we can come up with some solutions for both sides, because I believe the victims who have had parental alienation used against them and to give their kids to abusers. But I also believe the men who are being, alienated. I believe them too. There are true stories on both sides.
We'll get into all of that, but I always felt like we debate things in this country, and these issues rarely get debated. So I'll give you my opinion, but I think a national dialogue, national maybe, but some sort of a dialogue should happen. So that's really the important thing.
Yes.
All of these things are discussed very rarely outside of the courtroom. And, I read you what that one former judge, Deanne Salcido, said. Judges told me about parental alienation all the time. Well, so inside the courtroom is one thing. You think anyone outside of the courtroom knows that this is what's happening inside the courtroom? No. And so these things happen in secret, in the dark, and they should be debated.
Yeah, we do need to talk about it. And I'm very happy that we're doing this, and I think it's going to bring a lot of clarification to both sides. And I'm hoping to open it up to so that the Fathers' Rights Movement and the mothers who are being terrorized by the court system can really understand that they are not enemies. The enemy is the court system. The enemy is the system and the therapists that are doing this to you. The enemy, and they're the ones who are getting it wrong. These are your enemy is not each other, and we need to start talking and figuring out how to fight this system. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. All right, Michael Volpe, investigative journalist from Chicago. Thanks for being here. And we will see you guys tomorrow at noon. So put it on your calendars because that's going to be fun. All right, everybody, take care.